Before I get started with tonight's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, today, unfortunately, us wrestling fans in the pro wrestling world lost a true legend. Terry Funk was definitely a legend in pro wrestling, even though what a lot of people would say was probably the biggest part of his career. Before I really started watching regularly, but I did see some of them when I started watching, and I would go back, watch old VHS tapes, DVDs, and now online you can go back and watch old matches. And one match that I always used to go back and watch is the famous I Quit match he had with Ric Flair, and his run in the NWA, WCW, even ECW, and WWF as well, even though it wasn't really that great as Chainsaw Charlie. But still, Terry Funk, one legend, definitely. And one thing I do remember about his WWE career was it wasn't even or he wasn't in the match, I should say. The famous Hell in a Cell with The Undertaker and Mankind, where after Mick Foley already has been chokeslammed through the cage, Terry Funk got in the ring and he tried to buy some time for Foley, and he actually took a chokeslam from The Undertaker. And Terry Funk also made appearances for TNA and, of course, Japan, the exploding barbed wire matches and everything like that. He will definitely be missed by all of us wrestling fans and everyone else in the world of pro wrestling. Rest in peace, Terry Funk. And this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic is definitely dedicated to Terry Funk. Episode 476 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Tonight I will be talking about AEW Dynamite, which was the go-home show before the big day this Sunday, AEW All in London. Who has the momentum going into the biggest show in all elite wrestling history? Right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hello, Wrestling Fanatics. Welcome to episode 476 of the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. Hope you all had a great Wednesday. And I talked about very sad news at the top of the podcast there. Unfortunately, we lost the legendary Terry Funk, and before the podcast when I talked about him, I don't know how, but I somehow forgot to mention, of course, he is the son of Dory Funk and the brother of Dory Funk Jr. and a WWE Hall of Famer. Terry Funk will definitely be missed. I know I grew up watching Terry Funk, like I said, still at the time doing some stuff in WCW, saw him as Chainsaw Charlie in WWF, and his run in ECW. He was on the first ever ECW pay-per-view in '97, which was barely legal, and he also made a few appearances for TNA as well. But once again, this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic is dedicated to the memory of Terry Funk. Let's talk about tonight's AEW Dynamite. Our commentators tonight: Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Taz. It is the go-home episode of Dynamite before this Sunday's AEW All in London live from Wembley Stadium. And we kick things off. The first match that is supposed to take place. It is the Elite, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, taking on Bullet Club Gold. And this one breaks down pretty quickly. Never actually gets started. Both teams just fighting and going at it. While all this kind of craziness is going on, Jay White hits the referee, knocks him down, and then FTR come out to make the save for the Elite, which the Young Bucks are their opponents for All In. And then we see someone who we haven't seen in quite a while, Ortiz. Ortiz comes down, and then we hear some music, and it's someone who it's been even longer since we've seen, actually. Santana. If you remember, he was actually injured in last year's Blood and Guts, which was here in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena, and he hasn't been seen in AEW since then. But they returned tonight and they attacked the Elite and sided with the Blackpool Combat Club, which that Blood and Guts, where Santana last appeared, they were on the team of the BCC in the Blood and Guts match. So it's not really too much of a surprise that they sided with them, even though Eddie Kingston was also on that team in the Blood and Guts match. And next up, we have a first of a few sit-down interviews by the remarkable Renee Paquette. First up, it's the AEW World Champion MJF Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Pretty good one here, I thought. And we will have a couple more interviews later with Renee Paquette on this episode of Dynamite. Next up, Ray Phoenix taking on Jon Moxley. But before I get into that, the first match, it doesn't get a rating because, of course, it never started. Now this one, pretty good match here. Jon Moxley gets the win, and then we have the BCC come out 3-on-1. They attack Phoenix with a crowbar. The best friends come out trying to make the save. Wait a minute. I messed everything up. I don't know why I was talking about what happened. I started with the Bullet Club Gold and the Elite, but I somehow started talking about this match instead. I don't know. I messed up. I apologize for that mistake. This is when Santana and Ortiz came out. I don't know why I started talking about it after that match. I have no idea what happened there. I got a little I don't know if I got a little distracted and then skipped ahead a little bit, but that's what happened there. Santana and Ortiz came out, sided with the Elite. This match, Moxley vs. Phoenix, I'd say 2.5 out of 5 ring bells. And next up, Tony Schiavone is in the ring for the contract signing for the match this Sunday at All In London. Chris Jericho and Will Ospreay. This went pretty well. I thought it was a pretty good back and forth exchange between Jericho and Ospreay. And I'm sure these two will have a really good match on Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. Not really sure who to predict just yet as the winner, but it is a match that I am definitely looking forward to seeing on Sunday. Should be a good one. And they both signed the contract. The match is official. And now we get the second sit-down interview with Renee Paquette. And it's with Adam Cole, baby. And I thought another good interview here. Definitely looking forward to seeing the two matches involving MJF and Adam Cole this Sunday, starting with the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship match, where they will be teaming to take on Aussie Open on 0 Hour. And then in the main event of All In, MJF versus Adam Cole for the AEW World Championship. Tag team action is up deck next. And Darby Allin, Nick Wayne taking on Swerve Strickland and AR Fox. Pretty good match here. I give it 2.5 out of 5 ring bells. Darby Allin and Nick Wayne get the win. Then after the match, Swerve Strickland gets on the mic and he blames AR Fox for losing. And he says this whole thing was a test and he lost to an 18-year-old child. And he gives the microphone to Prince Nana and they fire AR Fox from the Mogul Embassy. And Brian Cage appears in the ring now and attacks AR Fox. And then Sting, Darby Allin, and Nick Wayne come back out to save AR Fox. And Darby talks about the problems they've had recently, but he helped them out by letting them stay with him. And he shook his hand. And now Swerve Strickland will be having a new partner for the coffin match this Sunday at All In. At first I was thinking it was going to be Brian Cage when he came out and attacked AR Fox, but they didn't actually say that the partner is going to be Brian Cage. Could end up being somebody else. We will just have to wait and see. Women's action up next on Dynamite. Ruby Soho, representing the Outcast, takes on Sky Blue. Pretty good match here. I wouldn't say it was anything real great though, but 2 out of 5 ring bells, and Ruby Soho gets the win. And next up we have a segment with the Acclaimed and the House of Black. And at this time we see the return of Billy Gunn. And we find out now that AEW Trios Championship match has been added to All In this Sunday. It will be the House of Black, Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and Brody Lee, with Julia Hart in their corner, taking on the Acclaimed, and not Daddy Ass, but the badass Billy Gunn. Should be a pretty good trios match, and I kind of think that I wouldn't be too surprised that they have the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn win the trios titles this Sunday. I could be wrong, but I kind of have a feeling that we could see new champions at All In. And the main event of the evening, Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, Aussie Open taking on the Hardys. Really good tag team match tonight, I thought. And I'm going to have to give it 3.5 out of 5 ring bells. And Aussie Open getting the win. Mark Davis pinning Jeff Hardy, which I'm not really too surprised that they did beat the Hardys tonight, because going into the biggest show in company history so far, you want to give them some momentum going into it, make them look like a strong team, make them look like they belong. I know it's the 0 hour, but still make them look like they belong to be going into the match with the 2 guys that are in the main event. You could say biggest 2 stars that are on the show this Sunday. So it was good to give some momentum to Aussie Open tonight. And then we see the AEW World Champion MJF and Adam Cole, Better Than You, baby, the number 1 contenders for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships, or at least the challengers, this Sunday. And they go for a double clothesline, but Aussie Open avoids that. And then MJF tries for the kangaroo kick, but then Mark Davis pulls Kyle Fletcher out of the ring before he is able to connect. And then Adam Cole went to hit Kyle Fletcher, I believe it was. I could be wrong though, but then he moved and almost hit MJF. And then there was some tension there. And MJF held up the AEW World title, walked past Adam Cole, and shoved him, kinda bumped into him a little bit. And MJF has his back turned to Adam Cole. He actually goes into his pocket and gets the Dynamite diamond ring out. And for a second, he actually kind of looks like he is going to hit Adam Cole with it, like he has done to his opponents many times to get victories. But then he takes it off his finger and puts it back in his pocket, and then goes back to Adam Cole, and they hug it out. And that was tonight's AEW Dynamite, the go-home show before this Sunday's huge pay-per-view event, AEW All in London. And I thought it was a really good show as the last stop before All In. Fighter Fest tonight, really good show, had some good wrestling on it, but also had the interviews and things like that for the last minute build to the pay-per-view on Sunday. So I enjoyed tonight's Dynamite. Overall, I'd give it 8 out of 10 ring bells as a show. Overall, really good episode tonight, in my opinion anyway. And before I wrap up this episode of the podcast, let me see if there's any news to mention. And Impact Wrestling holding shows at Toronto C and E this week. Not too familiar with what that is. And that is about it for the news. Not really a whole lot. And, I mean, besides the sad news about Terry Funk's passing today, once again, I know I said it already, but this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic has been dedicated to the memory of the Funker, the legendary Terry Funk. He will definitely be missed. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, you can leave your feedback on tonight's AEW Dynamite. Also, share some memories and favorite matches of Terry Funk that you have in the comment section, either right here on Spreaker, YouTube, whichever podcast app you listen to on. And hope to have more episodes of 360 Wrestling Fanatic the rest of the week. And sometime Sunday night, hope to do a live episode talking all about AEW All in London and Impact Wrestling Emergence. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, a new episode of 360 Anything Goes will be available, talking about the classic 1959 Western movie Rio Bravo, starring Dean Martin, John Wayne, Ricky Nelson, Walter Brennan, all-star cast right there. But before that, we'll be right here tomorrow morning for 360. Good morning, wrestling fans. Hope you all tune in tomorrow morning, and I will talk to everyone then. But for now, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.